Hello, this is Jeannie Shear, UW-Madison Division of Extension, Natural Resources Institute. On April 13th through the 15th, 2021, we held our spring meetings with the Aquatic Invasive Species Partnership of Wisconsin and the Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area partners, all of us from across the state by Zoom. And this series of recordings will cover Tuesday and Wednesday's meeting highlights. The first day of the meeting, Tuesday, highlights were pretty good. We have a really fun video of pet rehoming work done by John Moyles. Then an overview of what's going on with the Organisms and Trade Pathway by Amy Kretlow, covering what her team is working on. Then we're going to have a quick review of the response framework used department-wide for taking action once a new invasive species is discovered in the state, especially when it's prohibited. And then Ann Pierce will cover the invasive plant phenology calendar that she has been working on the last couple of years. And then Maureen will give us an update about what's going on with Japanese knotweed control, followed by Kelly, who will be giving us an update on the NR40 revisions. If you're interested in Thursday, Ann Pierce is going to be setting up that video, and we'll send out an email, or you can contact me to see what where to find that. Hope you enjoy.
It's like, hi guys, I'm John. I'm the director of J&R Aquatic Animal Rescue. I have been working in the pet industry since about 1994, but my degree is in natural resources. So I went to the Tech here in Appleton, and then I went on to UW Oshkosh for environmental studies. And where those two lines intersect, the pet industry and natural resources, is invasive species. So back in like 2015, 2016, I was with the Green Bay Aquarium Society, and I started working with Sea Grants with Tim, coming up with a plan to do these surrender events where people could bring their pets that they don't want. And we were kind of basing it off of the Minnesota Aquarium Society. They would have these events where you could drop off your unwanted fish right the day before their auction, and then they would just auction them off, and that would be, instead of like releasing them into the wild. And we kind of grew that and built off of it, and we started inviting other organizations to come. So it wasn't just fish. You could bring birds and small animals and reptiles, and it was like a safe place with no police involved, because some of these animals are not legal to own. So we started doing that, and that was going really well for a while. And then, like I said, I was with the Green Bay Aquarium Society. So we were kind of limited to Northeast Wisconsin. And so I broke off and I started J&R Aquatic Animal Rescue in February of last year. And what that's allowed us to do is we're not tied to a geographic region with our name. So we have these Habitatitude surrender events coming up every month until September. So we've got one coming up in Milwaukee this week. Then May 15th will be in La Crosse. June 12th will be in Eau Claire. July 18th will be in Madison. September 11th will be in back in the Fox Valley. October 2nd will be in Superior. And then in August, we'll be in Stevens Point. I haven't set a date for that one yet. I'm still waiting for a location. But yeah, so we do these events because a lot of places there's no place to surrender an exotic pet, especially fish. Most humane societies don't have fish tanks, and they're not equipped for for fish especially, but even a lot of times they're not equipped for reptiles, sometimes small animals, sometimes birds, although they do take them sometimes. And then we get out and we advertise not only our services, but what to do if you've got an animal that you can't take care of. We tell people that no matter what, they should contact us and we'll help. We maintain a network of bona fide rescues across the state that we work with. So like if you've got a bird in Madison that you have to get rid of, you can contact us, even though we're in Menasha in the Fox Valley. We'll be able to reach out to our partners and help you as soon as we can. Last year, we took in over 1,000 animals from February to December 31st. Right now, we've got around 275 animals in our shelter. When I say our shelter, I mean my basement, because I started it, out of my house. When I started, I had about 20 aquariums. I think I'm up to over 60 right now. And we take everything. Kind of one of our sayings is we never turn away a person or a pet in need, even if it's just temporarily. So like right now I've got fish, of course, but I also have reptiles. I've got like turtle. We get a lot of turtles. Turtles are one of the biggest things that are surrendered. Last year we got in, I think 60 turtles, and we actually work with Petco. They have a turtle relinquishment program where they'll send them to a farm in Louisiana. So they do get recycled back in the pet industry, but at least in that time they get to live outside in ponds rather than just like in my basement. So we go that way, and then Petco pays for shipping. So that's really nice. And they do that year round at any Petco. So that's another resource if you guys have to let people know about that program, because not a lot of people know about it. I had to like do some real digging on the internet, and the first time I did it, I had to like show the store manager on my phone like that's something that they actually did, and he had to email corporate to get information on it. So yeah, let's see. So that's who we are. Did you guys have any questions? I feel like I'm kind of talking into space.
John, this is Chris Hammerlin, Stevens Point.
Oh, hey, what's up?
Hey, I know we're still looking to get a place for you to set. In your other cities that you're doing this, what type of locations are you utilizing? That might help me lock something down.
So I think I might actually just go back to that original hotel. We try to partner with like community-based organizations like nature centers and libraries, but with COVID restrictions, nobody's been really thrilled about signing up for that. We don't need like a whole lot of space. I know like here in town, in the Fox Valley, we use I'll add the dates to the chat. We use Thousand Islands here in town, or not in town, it's in Kaukauna. And then in Madison, we're at the Aldo Leopold Nature Center. And then the rest of them are all like Hilton properties, because my day job is I work at the Hilton. So I get, I don't get a discount, but I get points. So we're set up there. So for Stevens Point, I'll probably get that room that we had last time at that hotel. So yeah, that's the kind of space that we look for. So hopefully in 2022, when things start opening back up, we can start using libraries and nature centers. One of the things that I entertained the idea of doing, but with COVID, I didn't really want to commit, is doing like a presentation first, and then like having an organization like the local watershed organization do like a 15 or 30-minute presentation to kick on invasive species to kick off the program, and then having like area organizations bring in like live animals and do like live animal demonstrations, just to get to people to come in and like learn about what we're doing and have it be more of an attraction. And that works better in a library or a nature center type environment where you're going to have like walk-in traffic anyway, rather than like in a hotel conference room where you're just not going to get that kind of like people walking in off the street and saying, hey, what's going on here? That's worked really well for us in the past at Thousand Islands. But yeah, with COVID this year, it's been really hard to book rooms. Plus, it like with the booking hotels, it's like super expensive. You know, where nature centers usually donate the space, hotels are, you know, the cheapest conference room is like $80. So yeah, so hopefully for 2022 we'll be able to approach things a little bit differently. But yeah, as everybody knows, 2020 and 2021 were kind of a struggle for everybody.
I have a connection in the Kenosha library system. If you've never
Yeah.
done there, and then we're also hiring a new AIS coordinator that'll be down and covering that county, working with Tim Campbell. So
Nice.
we definitely have a connection for you that has some potential.
For sure. And if you guys are in the areas and you want to participate, I'm always looking for more people to hand out more information about like invasive species and stuff like that. So I've worked with Chris, I've worked with Matt, I worked with other Chris, two Chris's. So from Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance, the Golden Sands, and Matt, which one? You're at Sugar Creek?
Upper Sugar River Watershed Association.
Yeah. So we work together, and they're really fun events. You get to kind of see some of the cool animals that come in, and yeah, it's a good time. So if anybody is interested in learning more about that, the way it usually works at these events is that somebody will come in, and typically in a regular year, we'll have all of these other organizations setting up tables and like handing out information, and they'll have like live animals and stuff. But they'll come in and they'll check in usually with the like watershed person, and then they'll kind of direct them where to go. Because in the past we've had like people just show up and walk to the first table and drop off their pet, and then like the other groups would get kind of mad because they weren't getting any pets. So now we just have like the watershed person check them in, and then kind of direct them where to go based on the animal that they drop off. I mean, that's worked pretty well. This, you know, with 2021 though, usually with the past couple, it's just been me kind of checking people in, and then just me at the event, because with COVID, nobody really is committing to events anymore. And then I take the pet, and then I take it back to our shelter, and then I'll usually contact our network and see if people can take it. Otherwise, I have a website where we have animals for adoption, so it's not that big of a deal. One of the things that we market is that all of the animals that are turned in will be available for adoption, either through us or through one of our partner organizations. It's not, and we only partner with rescue organizations, like places that have pets for adoption, so we can kind of have that message clear across the board that all the animals will be available for adoption, where they're not just going to kind of go to some dude's house, you know, like somebody that's really into reptiles will just take them all. While we appreciate those kind of people, we just will like the same kind of language across all, you know, across the board, that everything will be available for adoption. And the public kind of really likes that message.
John, when you get done talking, besides a link or dates added to the chat, can you put in your contact information too?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because I bet you we've got people listening who would be willing to help you out at the events this year, even because with some restrictions lifting, and you know, it varies so much by county what people are allowed to do. So
yeah, and one of the biggest things I could use help with is printing out flyers and posting them around town. You know, like I have an event in October in Superior, for example, and so I don't want to have to drive all the way up to Superior like a month before and like put posters in every Quick Trip. So if I could even have help just doing that, that would be awesome.
Well, let's see. That would be.
Yeah.
You guys
But
introduce
like,
yourself to him as we
yeah,
go,
so like,
maybe in
like
private link chat or, you know, in chat if you
for sure. Otherwise, my
names.
emails, it's adoptions@jraar.org. And I'll post my information and the upcoming dates, and our, you know, website address and our Facebook, right, in the group chat, when we're done.
And you can also, you're on our listserv, so you can also send
For sure.
out on the listserv for upcoming events.
Oh, yeah.
Any of us that are on there have the right to go ahead, and it gives the permissions to do that. I'm looking at what your friends behind you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what some of those are for those of us
For sure.
familiar?
Yeah, and I can do a quick tour too. So this is Arthur. He's a silver arowana. He came from a habitat to surrender event, actually. So did this guy. That's an iridescent shark. You might find those in the grocery store labeled as SWI. Here. Let me turn the camera around, or figure out how to turn the camera around. There we go. Okay. So this is Blade, the clown knife. He was dropped off from somebody that lived in Chicago, actually. There's no resources. Like I said, there's no pound for fish. So when you have a fish that you don't want anymore, can't take care of, what do you do with it? And the answer is drive 3 hours with him in a tote in the trunk and bring him to Wisconsin. This is Sharky. He was from a Habitat to Surrender event. He's a tiger shovel-nosed catfish. And then we've got, that is Eeyore. He is a black pacu, and he is also from a Habitat to Surrender event. These are fish that, oh, and then I've got a blue channel cat that was dropped off. So that's a native fish. So I had to call the DNR warden to figure out what to do with him, because there's, with VHS, there's a lot of restrictions on moving native fish. So they just told me to hang on to him and find somebody to give him to. But these are fish that probably shouldn't be ever in captivity. This fish right here gets about 4 feet long. He is basically unadoptable because nobody is ever going to pass the application process. They would need a huge tank, like in excess of 500 gallons, to take care of a fish like that. Let's see. And then, okay, so this is an alligator gar. This is Sammy Hagar. He's about 2 feet long. They get about 10 feet long. Another fish that probably shouldn't be in captivity. He was dropped off on our porch. When I said earlier that we never turn away a person or a pet in need. That's true. So I don't know why they decided, like, they didn't contact us beforehand to see if we would take them. They just 7:30 in the morning. We actually, my daughter, who's like 2.5, decided to sleep in. So which was awesome. But the doorbell rang, and we're like, "Who's that?" And we go outside, and yeah, ding dong ditch. There he was in a styrofoam container. Yeah, so that's Sammy. So he was another fish that is going to be here forever. And then we've got Angie. She hates me, but she's really cute. She was dropped off at the last Habitat Surrender event, where a person in like Wausau area had her and was trying to sell her to like the guy at the pet store. And so the guy at the pet store just wanted to get her out of a bad situation and bought her, and then wound up bringing her to us. But we're raising money right now to try to send her to a farm in Florida. Again, just so she can live outside. These make interesting pets, but not everybody is equipped to handle a 10-foot alligator. So we decided that the people that are equipped for a 10-foot alligator can just go on the internet and buy one. They don't need to get one from us. So we decided that instead of adopting her out, we're just going to give her to a farm. And she's not really mean. She just thinks everything's food. But yeah. And so one of the things that I quickly learned is that we can't prepare for everything. So all of our tanks are pretty fluid in how they're set up, where we take them down and put them back up depending on need. Because like we had no idea we would be getting an alligator or a 2-foot alligator gar. So we had to mobilize quickly and kind of, think on our feet and be able to support the animal, which we don't really maintain a permanent collection. So that helps. I do have my pets, but all of these tanks are basically for the shelter. Those are probably the most interesting things. We've got some turtles. These are my personal pets. They're just really cute. They're diamondback terrapins. We've got, let's see. Luckily, like a lot of the things that are dropped off are, small fish like these betas, and then axolotls. We have a ton of axolotls. I want to say we have something like 30. And then like the small fish like this are pretty easy to place because they're community fish and they're relatively inexpensive. We do get some bigger fish. I do have brochures, Tim, that we can send to the different like local pet stores and things like that. And also I do a lot of nature centers. So everybody local pretty much has us. And then plus I have an email list, which when the whole moss ball thing with the zebra mussels and moss balls, I maintain a list of almost all of the pet stores in the state that I email on a monthly basis just to kind of let them know what we're doing and who we are and that we're here to help. And also if they want to help us, that would be really cool. So yeah, this is our Oscar tank. Oscars these are really cool fish. They get really big and they're really cheap. So this is one of our problem fish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got like a dozen of them in here. These lights are off still. But yeah, so we do take lizards in too. Yeah, aquatic plants. We do get aquatic plants in occasionally. Usually when people take aquariums down, we also take terrestrial plants. Like if people have house plants that they're getting rid of, we'll take them. It's not something that it's not like a super popular program, but it is a program and it's something that we do. Most of the time when that happens, it's like people take down their whole fish tank or their whole terrarium or whatever, and they wind up giving them to like the whole thing to us, and we take them. There's my African bullfrog. So I started out, I worked as a naturalist for a while. So a lot of my pets are geared towards using as demo animals. So I've got like, this is Greeno, the red-eared slider. He was found in the river in Kaukauna, in the Fox River. This is a red-eared slider. People, he was a pet release because red-eared sliders aren't found here naturally. And one of the things, like when I talk about Greeno being found in the river in Kaukauna, a lot of people are just like, well, that's where turtles go. They just live in the river. Well, and then you have to explain, like, not that kind of turtle. And, as insiders, we kind of forget that people don't know, that, a turtle isn't a turtle. A turtle, like a red-eared slider, is not the same as a painted turtle, and that you can't let them go just in the Fox River, because either A, it'll die, or B, it'll do ecological damage. And that's kind of why we're here and kind of what we do. So yeah.
I'm going to plug John. Working with him was super fun. I got to hold a python, learned a bunch.
I actually just adopted him.
Nice.
Yeah.
I want to put forward to the group that like this guy, John, should be on the Wisconsin Invasive Species Council. So I don't know how that process works, but when I was, it's kind of a big job, but when I was the OIT director, the Organisms and Trade, what I had the passion, but none of the pet shop knowledge that this guy has. And that whole council, I feel like, at least I don't know the current makeup, but they could really use your level of knowledge and advising, because, you know, as biologists, we don't know the same threats or the same life history of these species that you do. So I'm putting you out there for that, but it'd be, and also fund this guy because he works at the Hilton, and it's all passion. Him and his wife do this out of the goodness of their heart, not because it makes them a lot of money. So if you see their name come across your desk, give them some money.
Yeah, this is 100%. We're 100% volunteer. We don't take a wage from this at all. I think the only thing that the shelter does for us is I figure out how much electricity and water that it uses, and you know we get reimbursed for that. But that's about it. Other than that, we're 100% volunteer. And thank you for I take that as high praise. You know, I've been doing this for a really long time, and I'm always willing to help. So yeah.
John, can we assume that you're also interested in getting aquarium equipment and used aquariums? Yeah,
for sure. So anything that we can't use directly, we put in we have a rummage sale once a year. I also am the coordinator for the neighborhood rummage sale. So we do that once a year, and that kind of helps raise money for the shelter. And it also, you know, frees up landfill space from people that are just throwing stuff out. So we take any kind of donation. So yeah.
So we had a few things coming up here in the chat. Ramona Shackelford and Superior offered to help up there, so I put your email in there already, and her email.
Oh, awesome.
There. You answered the question about the plants. Matt asked, what would you do if you got a red swamp crayfish?
We've had that come up before. We were actually involved in a police type situation with an animal hoarder, and they had like one fish tank, and it was really small and really dirty. We couldn't even really see into it. We just started like scooping, and we pulled like 30 fish out of it, and they actually had like 2 red swamp crayfish and some rusty crayfish. So I called the DNR, and they came and they took it. I wouldn't mind getting a permit for red swamp, you know, to be able to have red swamp crayfish, so I could talk about them and do more of my you know, when I do some more of my educational stuff, because red swamp crayfish are just so big and creepy looking, and you know, they're fun to see. So yeah, but that's what I would do with a red swamp crayfish. I'd call a DNR, and they'd be destroyed. And I think that person actually faced charges for having them. I think they were dropped, but that was like one of the things they added to the charges that he was already facing.
You can check with Marine Ferry about a possibility of a permit for.
Yeah, so I've got a permit for native stuff and like undersized snapping turtles. It's just one of those things where if I come across it, like I would want to, you know, get one. The actual animal first, rather than jump through all the hoops and then not get anything, and then having the permit expire and then jump through all the hoops. So it's just one of those things I'm kind of just waiting for.
Let's see what else we had here. A big thank you from Carrie and Chris AC offering, you know, saying it's great.
Yeah,
you and offering
Chris
to share
great.
with other coordinators.
Chris and I have basically been working on these projects since basically their inception. Chris worked with the Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance here in the Fox Valley, and I was actually working with his coworker Corinne, who was interning for Tim Campbell for the first one we ever did. So the first one we ever did, we did at Thousand Islands Environmental Center, and it was just me and Steve Keller, the snake guy, and we were just taking snakes and fish. And of course, somebody showed up with 2 cats that we had to kind of scramble and like think of like, what are we going to do with these cats? We never said anything in our material about like, hey, we're taking cats. We don't take cats. But luckily the Humane Society was nice enough to take them off our hands, and we didn't have to like all of a sudden become a cat rescue. And then yeah, so if you have any questions about like what your responsibilities or expectations would be, talking to Chris from Foxville Watershed Alliance, he's been a really great help with getting these things off the ground. And the same thing, Tim has also been a great help with kind of, you know, getting the ball rolling on these events. Yeah, so yeah, and yeah, and like Tim said in the chat, helping place signage is great, and also sharing the event on Facebook, you know, either through your personal accounts or through your you know, your professional pages is great, and we appreciate every share, because getting the word out is the biggest thing. And then, oh yeah, yeah, the Diamondbacks, yeah, they're like one of my favorite turtles. I say one of my favorite turtles, because I have many favorites when it comes to turtles. So yeah, any help you guys could offer would be great with getting the word out. And we're, like I said, we're always looking for partners, you know, for the actual events. And yeah, 2021, we kind of blew up with these events, and we plan on doing that again in 2022. But hopefully some of the restrictions will be lifted, and we'll be able to actually do some more presentations and hands-on and actual education, rather than just setting up shop and taking in pets.
Thanks so much. That was, I mean, we don't get a lot of tours of someone's basement full of wonderful, crazy animals that we.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah,
it's quite a treat for everybody.
Yeah, with
Sure.
our 5-year goal is to get like a facility, but we'll see how that goes.
Good luck. And
yeah, because the faster I get this out of my basement, the happier my wife will be.
oh well, she must be a great partner to have gone along with it all.
Oh yeah, she's really I've been working with pets for a long. We actually met in a pet store, so she kind of knew what she was getting into when we met. So yeah.
Well, thank you again, and might keep an eye on the chat in case anybody.
Yeah, I'll
any extra questions before you leave.
I'll reply all to one of the emails setting this up, but I'll also put my contact info and our links and stuff in the chat.
Thanks, and then all the info you send out, we have an organisms and trade folder in our box reference files that we use.
Oh, sure.
You can add that to there too.
Fantastic.
So thanks again, and you're getting lots of thanks in the chat already, and we're going to move on now with our